Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Thursday episode of the Hog Talk podcast, presented to you by Believe and Buzz Radio Network, where you can hear us each week on 106.7 in Central Arkansas. All live shows are brought to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark. I am Porter Hayes. Alongside me, as always, is Adam Hall, and we're brought to you by Bet Online.
Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything sports betting. Every stat, matchup, breakdown, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during games. With the largest catalog of odds on everything from football, MLB playoffs, NHL, NBA, to political props. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. Bet Online. The game starts here.
And I forgot to mention that tonight's episode is presented by Vision Exteriors. You can find them at 4301 Regions Park Drive in Fort Smith for all your outdoor needs. Adam, we'll jump right into it. Another huge win for Arkansas. I don't know if you could have ever imagined beating Kentucky and then beating Texas back-to-back was on your bingo card, jumping into SEC play. But we were texting throughout the first half, and it seemed like they come out, and I told you they need to keep them at arm's length. 8 to 10 point lead. That saves if they try to come back and make a run at it. Texas only led one time during the game, 2-point lead early in the first half, and then Arkansas controlled there. Trayvon Mark, former Arkansas Razorback, was held to 0 points and stayed in foul trouble. I think he had ended with 4, but just another good win, good build on a road SEC win. I think they said the first back-to-back SEC road win in a very long time. So what was your thoughts on the game?
Texas looked uncomfortable throughout the majority of the game. They really didn't find their footing till really they started coming back. I mean, Arkansas, I think, got up 23 at one point. And you needed that lead, obviously, because they got back within 8 or 9 points. I think may have been, I don't think it got down to 6. I could be wrong there. But, every time they were flirting with that 10-point, 9-point towards the end, you were glad that you had a 23-point lead. Yes. When that was dwindling down, I really, under 6 minutes, I was pretty uncomfortable just seeing the lead go and knowing that Texas had done the same thing to Texas A&M, coming back from, I believe, 21 down. So that's where I was kind of like, okay. But then, it got inside 3 minutes, then got inside 2 minutes. And I think it was right around the minute mark, maybe a little less. And Arkansas came up with a steal, and that just kind of sealed things for me, and for them too. But, it was nice seeing Tremont Mark go scoreless. The whole Texas team, like I said, just looked uncomfortable throughout the game. It really took Trey Johnson a while to get a flow and get a feel, and that's what you had to keep him out of the game. What did he finish? Which he still finished with 25, which the majority of that was the second half, and he's a second half scorer. They talked about it during the game. So this was another all around team effort, and shout out to Nelly for really putting it all together in the absence of Boogie. You hate injuries happening to players, especially a player at Boogie's calendar, but this team has really found their footing in his absence.
Yeah, Nelly had 24 points, 5 rebounds, and just, I was thinking there in the first half, I was like, Theo has only shot one time, and I'm like, here we go again, another one of those games where he takes over, and then the following game doesn't get the ball as much. He only shot the ball 5 times, but he was 6 for 12 from the line with 14 points. And then that monstrous dunk where he took it to the rim and I think you talk about confidence. Something that's not being talked about as much is the fact that they have the confidence that they know they're going to win, but they're taking it to the rim. They're wanting that contact. They're wanting to take it to the rim, punish you. And you look at the fact that a lot of people's talking about the refs. You look at the first half, Arkansas shot 18 free throws. We're 13 of 18 from the first half. Flip the script. They shot, let's see, it was Texas that shot 22 free throws. Or no, it was 27 free throws in the second half. I mean, they shot 3 in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be, Arkansas was taking to the basket a lot, but you have to think that there was a lot of people saying, look, they're calling a lot of fouls trying to get Texas back into this game. And I believe that comment that said 7, I believe in the first half, they got it down to 7. They went on like a 10, 11-0 run. It says on the stat sheet, they went on a 12-0 run in the second half with 6 minutes left. That was the stretch that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But for Arkansas to fend them off, another road win, I mean, for them to do it, they've won. I mean, beat Kentucky off the floor. And then you come into Texas. You thought that, is this going to be a fluke? This was going to be the game. Because guess what? You got Bama coming up. This win right here takes a lot of pressure off it being a must win, or you need to really win this game on Saturday. Not saying they can't, but man, back-to-back wins, that was huge leading up to the final 10 games of this season.
I think that, and going back to this comment, do I think that the refs inserted themselves into the game? I think that they overcompensated in the second half for the first half.
Yep.
It was, I can't say that it was all completely like one-sided towards Arkansas. Like you said, Arkansas was driving to the basket more. They were causing contacts, and so they were getting the calls. They were the more assertive team, so they were getting those calls. But I do think that the refs came out in the second half, and I think that everything was a little bit overcompensated for, and I think that was a little bit glaring. So I think whereas we were getting the majority of the calls in the first half than we weren't in the second half, to the Arkansas fan, it looks like, oh, we're not getting any calls, but I look at it like they were just trying to balance things out from the first half. Is what it is. There was still, what was it, 23 fouls to 24 fouls, points in the paint. They got us by 4. They even beat us on fast break points, which I think a lot of that came in the second half. But we had more points off turnovers. I think we finished the first half with 6 turnovers and then finished the game with 9. So ball control was huge, not making dumb mistakes. When Arkansas gets the lead and they slow the game down, because we've seen it the past 2 games, they really take control of the game. And I think that this team now, DJ Wagner, John L. Davis, they understand, and I think a lot of that is being a sophomore and then being a senior. Like, they've been around, so they get, we've got to slow this down now that we've got this lead to eat the clock away, and it's worked. We still got out rebounded. Offensive rebounds were 13-3, but we got them on the defensive end. So we made Texas take shots that were rushed, that were forced. You saw it in the 3-point stats. So this was a game that Arkansas controlled from the start. They let get away from them, but when it mattered, they made Texas make the errors to give Arkansas the game essentially at the end.
They've completely changed their identity. You
Mhm.
look at how many threes they're shooting a game. They only shot 8 in the first half. They shot 9 in the second half. So 8 of the 22 shots were threes in the second half. You're talking about slowing it down. They're slowing it down and then driving to the basket.
Mhm.
They're still jacking up threes, but you shoot 44% from the field, 41% from the 3-point line. You held them for 6 of 22. You're making them play your game, and you throw them off. It'd be interesting to see how this shapes out on Saturday, going up against Bama, coming off a gritty win against Mississippi State. This comment right here, I think this speaks for everybody. I think you're going to have a Kentucky-type energy, an Auburn-type energy come Saturday with Bama rolling in. It's been pushed back to 7:30 because of the Luka Doncic game. And, yeah, womp womp. He needs more help, But you got to really be feeling good about this game. 2 weeks ago, felt terrible about the final stretch of this season. You get these 2 wins, you have a chance to win this game.
I think you definitely, fan wise, you have to come in with the when Auburn came in, #1 atmosphere. I'm not saying you need to do a whiteout. I think they would already announce it. You don't need to do anything special. Just be up, be loud, make Alabama uncomfortable. One thing that I say though is Arkansas, I think, plays better on the road than they do at home. I think that's what we've seen so far this year. Maybe that'll change now with this change that we've seen in the team, and that's what I hope for. I think that, yeah, he wasn't there for the Kentucky game, but I think Boogie being on the bench for the Texas game, and then now being on the bench throughout the rest, barring anything happening, like I think that bodes well for the team, just because the type of player that he is, slasher, scorer, whatever. Even though he is a freshman, he can still be one to, tell the guys what he's seeing from his point of view, and that they're going to listen. I just think that this game, you've got to use the crowd as your sixth man in this game. So don't let Alabama take the crowd out of the game. You've got to keep it close early on, and don't try to have to fight your way back. Just try to keep the tempo how you kept the tempo against Kentucky.
Yeah, and it shows a lot of, leadership. It shows that you're there for the team. And you talk about a team playing hot right now, and this has been mentioned. I mentioned this for years when it comes to the committee and how you play down the stretch. They really take into account of that final 10-game stretch. It's a metric in the net. It's a metric in how they seed these guys. And you got a team with your guy that's probably not going to suit up the rest of the season for the Razorbacks, but he's there on the sidelines. That's showing that he believes in this team. He wants to be there. And you said it. He's like a cheerleader, but a coach at the same time. He could sit there and talk to DJ or Nelly and tell them what he's seeing from a defense, or, hey, look, this guy's coming off the screen, give it to the wide open man in the corner, or drive to the basket. I think that's going to be the thing, is when you come into a game and you punch them in the mouth and you keep punching them in the mouth, you drive to the lane, you're wanting contact. You're not scared of contact. And this was something that I was skeptical about with this bench being so light. But you come in and you get out to a lead and you fend off that lead. If your depth starts getting, or you start getting a little tired, you can now look at the Texas game. You can fend off the 12-0 run. You could fend off a 9-0 run. It puts you in the perfect spot to come out in the second half strong, and then make them try to. And every time I would look at scores, 8 points, 9, 7, 12. It was right there hovering in that range. If Arkansas is going to make the tournament, they got to keep playing this way and not let them go on these 12-0 runs when it's a 14-point game. You cannot. That's where that momentum shifts. Yeah, you see runs. Basketball is a game of runs. And if you're in the second half and they go on an 8-0 run, but you're still up 7, there's not that much urgency as long as you hold them off. It's when they go on that 7-0 run, you call a timeout, and then they go on another 4-0 run, 12-0 run. Now you're looking at a 2-point game. You're giving the other team a chance to believe that they're going to win. Texas fought, but I don't think they ever thought they were going to win that game last night.
And, going into Alabama, I mean, this is a game that I've been kind of worried about all season, just because Alabama's offense really hasn't stopped all season. I mean, they average 90 points a game, but they give up 78. So I think this is a game that Arkansas's defense has to show up and come to play. And we keep talking about making other teams uncomfortable, but you have to, you've got to stop, or at least contain Sears. This is a game I do worry about. I don't have the highest, I don't know the word I'm looking for. Grant Nelson, I really don't care much about. I don't care much for. I think he's overhyped, coming out of, I think, North Dakota State, or where he was at before Bama. And, he kind of is a tip bag, in my opinion, in a sense, but he's a big that we may have a hard time matching up with. So I think this is a game that you've got to throw multiple players at him to throw him off. This is somebody I think you've got to attack to get into foul trouble, just to get him out of the paint and get him out of the middle. But he likes to step out and hit threes, just like Big Z does, or at least shoot them. So this is something that I think that you've got to use your defense to create offense. You've got to get out ahead of them. You've got to make them uncomfortable. One thing I applaud Nelly Davis for the last 2 games is getting out into the passing lanes. He's not letting any pass through easily, and he's getting quite a few steals from it. So even if he ends up knocking it off his knee or whatever, so I think this is a game that Cal's got to continue what he's done the last 2 games and coach this team, but have fun while doing it. Because we've seen him get frustrated at times the last couple of games, like any coach will. But he almost has this sense of freedom the last couple of games as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at all the guys, and a thing I wanted to point out was looking at their stats, and they got a guy, I'm going to butcher his last name, but it's Clifford Omoruyi, Ruyyi. He's only averaging 18 minutes a game, but he leads the team in fouls. He's averaging 7 points and 6 rebounds. So he's producing. So if I'm Arkansas, he's on the floor. He is prone to foul. Have Thero attack him.
Mm-hmm.
You knock any of these guys off the court. I mean, he's averaging 7, but you go after him, or like you said, Nelson, you get him in foul trouble. You're knocking almost 13 points off of their average. You get these guys in foul trouble, and you're playing at home and you're driving the basket, you're going to get that. And the game that we've seen so many games where they're shooting 3 after 3 after 3, you start attacking the basket and you start getting these other teams in foul trouble, you frustrate them. Because guess what? Everybody gets frustrated when the refs start calling fouls. Because this goes for both sides, nobody thinks they ever foul. If you start driving the basket, and every time you drive to the basket, you're getting contact, you get them off their game. And how well Arkansas shoots free throws. I mean, imagine you shoot for the game, you shot 27 free throws, you went 20 of 27. You bump that up just a little bit. Say you shoot 30 free throws and you hit 4 more. That 4 points can make a difference in the game. I feel like this is going to be a very, very close game because you're seeing complete, utter dominance in the Kentucky game. You're seeing they controlled the game, but they didn't dominate. You're seeing that gap close. I want to see how this game goes. I think this is going to be a game that really tests Arkansas. They might even have to come from behind to win this game in the end. Can they do that? I think they're being tested every game on winning a new way. I think this game comes down to they're down 3-4 in the final 2 minutes, 3 minutes of the game. And if they're going to win, they're going to have to come from behind to win this game.
Just looking at, because I haven't paid much attention to the rankings this week, I'm kind of shocked Kentucky's still at 4, or is it 14th?
They don't come out with the rankings but once a week.
I know. But, I mean, I know they lost.
Yeah, well,
I figured they would drop more after the loss to us.
They get that Bama treatment. I mean,
it's just funny to me, though, and I know I said last show I was done talking about them, but I don't care. 15-7 overall. They're contenders in their book, but we're 1 game different at 14-8, and we're barely making the NIT. Yeah. Make it make sense.
Well, they've lost 4 out of their last 5. Yeah. And it was funny how this is how full circle. I posted something that I don't think a lot of people got the full circle on what I did. Mark Pope after the game was talking about his team, or they're hemorrhaging. And I couldn't help but throw out the whole John Pelfrey line of just a warrior needs to take, lay down and bleed, take a good bleed. Where did he play basketball at? Kentucky.
Yep.
The irony of that statement as a coach, and then he said it as a player for Arkansas, it was hilarious. And they're in shambles right now. The fan base is in shambles. They're talking about enjoy your Super Bowl. Well, I mean, 4 teams have had Super Bowl wins over you in the last 2 weeks. So I don't understand what y'all want. Y'all need to worry about your own team right now, because I will say this. When Arkansas was on their losing streak, I didn't say nothing. I even agreed, like, when Kentucky fan base was coming at us, hey, we deserve it. We were talking so much crap, so much shit. We deserve Kentucky. Now the roles are reversed. Y'all deserve everything we're throwing at you because we're on a 2-game winning streak, and we punked y'all. We punked Texas, and Alabama's next.
I'm anxious for this game. I know I've said that I've been worried about it, but I'm anxious to see how this team, like I said, on this 2-game road trip, how do they come back, how they respond, because I do think they play better on the road. But Alabama's had a couple struggle games, so I think this is just something that you can't, because we know that we've talked about previously, teams get hot in Bud Walton Arena, and it's not just this season, it's years past as well. So, I mean, this is the fans, especially the student section. I mean, be loud, be obnoxious, be absurd, make them hate coming here. I mean, we still, to this day, replay the endings of those games where top 5 team or a big matchup comes in and Arkansas wins. It's like, if you're a player on the team, you want that to be replayed by us fans year in and year out for the next, decade plus. I mean, hell, we're still playing, which granted it was a fantastic inning, but we still play the Michael Qualls put back down, and I don't think we'll ever stop. So, just create a legacy while you're here, because you're not going to be here for a very long time.
Key to the game. If you're going to win this game, you have to slow down Sears and Holloway. Sears has shot 145 threes, and Holloway has shot 121 threes. Sears has made 52, and Holloway's made 51. You slow down one of those guys, you win the game. You let both of those guys get hot. You think about Trey Johnson, how he went off, and how that could have affected the game. You let 2 guys get hot, that could be killer. But there's your keys. Get them in foul trouble and slow down their 3-point. You let them have all the 2s they want. You close them out on the 3-point line, switch on the screens, everybody play help defense. You bring them down to their lowest 3-point attempts on the year. You beat Alabama.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then looking at their stats too, I mean, Sears and Grant Nelson both average. Sears is almost 3 turnovers game. Grant Nelson's 2 turnovers game. I mean, like we've been talking about, making them uncomfortable. Attack them all night. Field goal percentage, Grant Nelson, 54%. But Sears is 36% 3-point. That Holloway's 41% 3-point. So that's one of those that, you've got to shut one of them down. And whatever, even if you can't shut them down, like we've been talking about, getting them into foul trouble, get them into foul trouble. You're on this run right now. I mean, you've already, in a sense, shocked the world with what you did in Rupp, and then you added to it with Texas. I mean, this would completely blow the world up if you come into Bud Walton on Saturday night and take out number 3 Alabama.
Before we switch to the Super Bowl talk, all right, let's just talk about this. 7:30 game. You play Kentucky, you beat them. You played Texas, you beat them. What is the atmosphere going to be like on Dixon Street and Hog Nation, Hog Twitter, if you finish this 3-game winning streak and it ends with a win over number 3 Alabama at home?
Whatever the equivalent to tearing down the goalposts and carrying them to the river. I don't know what that would be, because there's nothing there. It's going to be chaos in a good way. I'll give it that. Because, I mean, it's not a national championship or super, but if you take out Alabama on Saturday night, all bets are off when it comes to Dixon Street afterwards. All bets are always off when it comes to Arkansas Twitter, because it's the most savage place I've ever been. And if you haven't taken a gander, it's brutal. Basically, just you want to be on Arkansas side of things. I'll just leave it at that.
Being the ringleader, because I heard on the last, your other show, your Petty AF. So I've heard you've got this reputation, and I know that there's others out there. Pinto's a leading one of them. We got a lot of great Hog Twitter guys out there, but I'm telling you, Arkansas wins this game. It's going to be amazing. And for really since 21, when you had that amazing year, but really in basketball, having this happen before March, you have something coming into the final stretch. You win the first 3 games of this 10-game stretch to the end, you have some winnable games coming up, and then guess what? You're allowed to have a bad game. You have cushion to sit there and lose a game because you're starting off with 3 wins and builds that resume. That boosts your seed up because now you got the win over Kentucky, you got your win over Michigan. Now with a win over Alabama, you could push yourself to a big time seed, and really threaten from not having to play a first 4 in game.
Yeah, and I mean something that in comparison, going back to football season, comparing it to now, it's one of those things where you have the ability in basketball that, hey, you're going to lose a game. You've got a little bit of leeway. You've got a little bit of cushion. Whereas on football, it was, one game is going to completely swing. I know after that Tennessee game, it was like, oh, we need to win out. We could win, whatever. In my world, if that wasn't going to happen. But in basketball, you've got more of a cushion that, hey, even if it doesn't go your way Saturday night, you've got plenty more still to come. But at the same time, while you're on this streak, keep it going to give yourself that cushion. Just like in the game last night, you got yourself that 23-point cushion or when they came back. So right now, get whatever cushion you can because you don't know what's going to happen game in it. I mean, hell, South Carolina could all of a sudden get hot for all we know.
Yeah.
And don't think that's ever going to happen. But crazier things have happened. Any one of these teams, Kentucky could find their ass and totally change. They have the ability to. But this is a game, and this was something Jimmy Dykes said about Kentucky against Ole Miss. And I think it kind of goes to Arkansas in a sense too, that you may not be and I'm probably butchering his actual quote, but more or less like you may not be the most athletic or the most athletically talented team, but because of that, you've got to work harder, you've got to execute better, and you've got to play smarter than the team that you're playing. And I think Arkansas has done that the past 2 games, and they've got to continue to do that.
Yeah. Well, again, the game's been pushed back to 7:30 p.m. On, I believe it's ESPN, the main, yes, ESPN 7:30. But leading up to the big game, we will not have a show on Sunday. We might come to you on Monday. We'll see if we beat Alabama on Saturday, we're going to go live on Monday. We're going to let Adam, we're going to let Hog HQ, we're all going to celebrate the Super Bowl, but Monday night we'll come to you. And big game coming up, Eagles, Chiefs. I know there's a lot of fun prop bets coming out. There's a lot of, is the Chiefs going to three-peat? Is the Eagles going to take down the Chiefs? But there is a bigger battle going on. There's a pick'em contest going on, and it has come down to the last game.
Yep.
How crazy is that? How crazy is it has come down to the last game, and we're sitting here for the championship belt.
Mm-hmm.
Chiefs, Eagles. Tell us who you picked and why.
So I was going to go, and I've been open with you and Hart and DP in.
Surprise guest via the Betters Lumber hotline. We have Matt Hart here to talk about this matchup. Throw yourself a little loop, Adam.
So going into Sunday, which, a week and a half ago, whenever it was, I played it up until yesterday, the day before on, am I going to go Chiefs? Am I going to go Eagles? Because I knew what Matt was going to pick. And in the back of my head, I'm just sitting here like, I could just, when the playoffs started, I could have just rode this thing out. Like, because we've done this for 149 games. Sunday will be 150. We kind of start to know how each other are going to pick some games and some matchups. And so it was just a matter of, do I just go with the picks that I know Matt's going to pick just to keep us dead or to keep me ahead? And I was like, I can't do that. So I went with my gut on them. And I was, coming up for Sunday, I was like, do I just want to take this to a tiebreaker, pick Kansas City and force the tiebreaker? But in my heart of hearts, I'm going with Philadelphia I think that Saquon Barkley will be the MVP. I think that he is going to have the game of his career. I don't think the three-peat happens, but if it does, I will be UPSing Matt the championship belt.
And it's come down to Matt has scored. He's down 1. He's going to go for 2.
Mhm.
He's going to go for 2 and win this thing. Hart, give us your pick and why. And I brought you on. Adam did not know we were bringing you on. This was a nice curveball. Adam, I texted him about 2 hours ago and said, look, we got to get you on, talk some smack. I'm not going to say a thing.
I heard the beep and I was like, what is going on?
Adam and some of the others in Hog HQ know. I've told them. I've known Patrick Mahomes. I call him Pat since he was 13. I moved to Texas, and one of my family members is his godmother. So there's a connection there. And so that, and just I believe they're equipped to win games. They always find a way. They run the clock out, get the points, kick the field goal, whatever, and win it. I will say Philadelphia does scare me. Like Adam saying, Saquon. If Philadelphia wins, Saquon's the reason why. I don't see their passing game being the reason. I mean, they got good receivers, but Jalen Hurts, he may hurt them more with his legs, if anything. But I just think Kansas City has an underrated defense. I think they'll load up the box, make Philly have to throw on them, and I think they're good enough to cover.
We've seen a lot of crazy things happen. And I wanted to kind of correct Adam. He was always talking about he always knew how we were going to pick. He would send me the picks on Sunday. I would totally forget about it. He was having to remind me every week, hey, dude, I need your picks. And I was throwing them out in 5 minutes. So I never knew who I was going to pick until I seen it. But, something crazy always happens in the Super Bowl. And if I think Philadelphia is going to win, they're going to run it. They're going to ground and pound, but they're going to get some breakout reception, crazy play to win the game if they win. If not, it's going to go head to head, and I think Kansas City outscores them. But something's going to happen. If it's Philly, is going to win some fluke wheel route or busted coverage where Hurts throws it down the field and gets some big reception touchdown. I think that's the way Philly wins. But my cards are on the Chiefs for that fact. I just don't think that the refs and the Chiefs, they're too powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I'll just say this. I mean, I poke fun of the whole ref thing, but in all actuality, I mean, Kansas City is equipped to win any game. It just it goes back to even, Tom Brady era, New England. It was the same thing. We're always talking about refs. We're talking about this. Now, granted, Tom Brady did have rule changes in his favor when it comes to forward passes and fumbles and things of that nature, which he's now admitted that,
You think about the rule changes.
Mm-hmm.
He's had a tuck. He's had a deflate. Everything that's had to do with balls, but it's actual football. It's crazy how you put it that way. And I did that on purpose. So
pause. But no, this is something that for both teams, being in New Orleans, let's hope the lights don't go out like they did on the 49ers and Ravens Super Bowl that Baltimore won. Maybe they have that figured out. But all in all, I think it's going to be a good game. It's one of those that I'm just tired of seeing Kansas City win, just like I was tired of seeing New England win. And then being a Ravens fan, it was like they had, Tom Brady in the way. Now I've got Patrick Mahomes in the way. So it's just one of those things like, give us a freaking break.
So it's almost like you've went to the Buffalo Bills and now you're like the Utah Jazz. You've always got somebody in your way from a championship.
But, the generational players are the guys that are the ones that have the rules changed because of something. I mean, we've seen it in basketball. We've seen it in football. So it's one of those things. And I think now, we've seen more of the rule changes to protect the quarterbacks. And I think it's because of players like Patrick Mahomes. And it's not calling him out by any means. It's just that because Lamar Jackson's similar. And it's that they run, they move around, they don't protect themselves. So yes, they're getting because I'm sorry, you have any one of these guys, not just them to go out some of these teams are screwed. I think in a sense, luckily Kansas City has their defense, but I think Kansas City, if Mahomes went out, Baltimore definitely would be if Mahomes or if Lamar went out. The Bills, Josh Allen's the same way. These teams don't have an identity. A lot of them don't have identities outside of their quarterbacks. So that's something that the league wants to protect, those teams and those brands.
Yeah. Matt, before we get out of here, I know we got a big game coming up on Saturday. We'll switch gears back to Arkansas. What is your biggest keys? To this win, what does Arkansas absolutely have to do to get this big win over Alabama?
Rebound. That's one. Because you have Adu and Brazil getting two rebounds between them in the last game, if I recall. And so when they get in, they got to be productive in some fashion. And we also just got to continue to hit shots. It seems simple and easy, but we just got to find a way, attack the rim, get guys open, and just knock down the open shots. And if we can just knock them down at a 35% clip, I think we'll be okay for most of our games.
Yeah, and I told him, you got two guys that have shot over 133s for the season. If you slow a couple of them down, you have a big shot. But yeah, I can't wait to see this game. I think it's going to be electric if they win, and then you have the Super Bowl right after that. So it's going to be a good week. But Matt, really, really appreciate you coming on. But hey, look, we didn't get no smack talk. It's cordial. It was like we're in Sunday school. What the hell is going on here?
It's one of those things that kind of like I go into a lot of Arkansas games and Baltimore games. There's just some things that I don't do leading up to because I know karma's a bitch.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Matt, thanks for hopping on. Adam, you got anything else before we wrap it up?
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. Y'all check out Jimmy Kimmel Live tonight at 10:30. Our boy Isaac Smooth Baron has just told everybody to take a peek and watch. We don't know what he's got in store, but check it out. See what he's got going. And if it's something good, I'm sure he'll have it posted, or I'll have it posted immediately after. So if you don't see it, we'll make sure and put it out there.
All right. Well, that will do it for this Thursday edition of the Hog Talk podcast, presented to you by Vision Exteriors. Granted, an Arkansas win will come back to you live on Monday night right here, 6:05 p.m. I want to thank our sponsors and everybody who tuned in. We'll catch you on Monday.